Hey, what's up? I'm Amobi Okugo, former professional soccer player turned corporate entrepreneur. So I'm going to tell you the step-by-step process on how I went pro. Obviously, I grew up, I was born in 1991, so my youth to pro process is different than what it is now, but hopefully you can take some insights into how I went pro to apply it to your career. If you are an up-and-coming prospect, or you have the potential to go pro, you're looking to go pro, you're on the cusp of going pro, you're the parent of an individual that you think has the talent to go pro, or if you just want to learn a little bit more about my story and my background and my experiences. So, like I said, I was born in 1991. Not going to give you my whole life story. I'm just going to stick to the step-by-step process of my soccer career and how I went pro. So I was born in 1991. Born in Hayward, but grew up in Sacramento. So I started with my school club team. Like, I went to Catholic school growing up, St. Ignatius. So if you're familiar and you're from the Sacramento area, I went to St. Ignatius. So, you know, my dad, my mom, they wanted me to stay active. Like, the reason why any young kid plays sports is to, you know, build friendships, stay active, you know, learn the intangibles of what sports teaches you in terms of life lessons. So played for my school team. No one could pronounce my name. So our school team in kindergarten was divided into like an A and a B team. And because I was like, you know, like, I was the only black kid in my class at the time and no one could pronounce my name, they just stuck me to the B team. The B team. There's two teams, but you know, it was really the B team, but they don't want to say it. They want to have everything equal. So it was the A team, you know, the kids that knew each other, grew up in the area, went to preschool together. And then the B team, kind of like the outcast. And they couldn't pronounce my name, so they put me on the B team. So not to like dramatize the story. But played for my school team. That first year of kindergarten, obviously it went pretty well. Like, I'd score like 10 goals a game, and my dad always jokes like, they didn't know your name then, but they knew your name by the end of the season. So funny enough, we ended up combining teams because my dad was pretty stubborn. Both my parents actually were pretty stubborn in the fact that they were like, no, he's gonna stay with this B team. He built his friendships there. You all didn't want him. Like, we beat your team, so why would he switch teams? So they ended up combining teams, and so I played soccer for my school team up until fourth grade. So I was around 10 years old. Yeah, 10 years old. And I would have kept playing for my school team because my parents had no idea about like local competitive clubs. It wasn't until a friend or a classmate of mine's parent, obviously it had been pretty well known that I was pretty good at soccer at that time. And he was playing competitive for River City. So if you're from Sacramento, you know these names that I'm saying. So River City, which is now Union FC, he had been playing for River City. So he basically told my parents that, like, yo, as great as it is to play for the school team, like, your son has talent to play like competitive. There's a whole ecosystem of soccer that y'all aren't playing in, and like, while he's good, like, he should like test himself against tougher competition. So even though I went to St. Ignatius, we grew up near Arden, between Arden Fair and Carmichael, but we had just moved to Elk Grove because my sister had been born. It was my younger brother, and my sister, and we needed some space. So thank God for my parents, we ended up getting a house in Elk Grove area, South Sac, Elk Grove area. So I tried out for some of the local teams. I tried out for San Juan, River City, Davis, and ultimately Elk Grove. And because Elk Grove was obviously the closest to where my parents and I lived, but also, and very fortunate if you really think about it, Elk Grove we had 5 black kids on the team, African Americans, Black Americans. So that really drew my parents, because growing up, I was literally the only black kid on my team from kindergarten to 4th grade. And to be on a competitive team, to see that, it was like a level of comfort that my parents really liked. So started off with Elk Grove. That was my first competitive team. We had a pretty good team. We did pretty well. You know, we did the state cups and the big tournaments, and those always went well. And then from there, I did ODP. So as we got into the competitive ecosystem, then we started learning more about the process. So my coach at the time had told me about, or told my parents about ODP. Everyone tries out. So did start off with the district team, made the district team. And then from there, you move on to state, regional, national. But at this moment, we're still on the district team. Yeah, started off ODP, started off with the district, and then I made the district, which ultimately made the Cal North ODP team, because California is so big, they split it between Cal North and Cal South. So I made the Cal North team, and we do like monthly camps and tournaments. And then from there, I made the Cal North team, and we competed against the other states. So Cal North versus Cal South versus Oregon versus Washington into the Region 4. So it's basically all the Western states. And so when we did the region camp with each state ODP team, I ended up making the regional team. And then from the regional team, I got assessed and evaluated to ultimately make the first ever U14 national team camp, which is in Boston. It's like the annual national team introduction camp for your age group. So because I was born in 1991, I was in 91. So this was like the national U14 ID camp for 91. Before that, ID2 is no longer around, but ID2, and this is like a whole ecosystem, a web of soccer. So ODP was like the national standard. It was through US Soccer, and ID2 was through Super Y. So ID2 had basically a national ID2 camp. It was literally like a week or 2 weeks before the Boston camp. And a lot of the players that were at the Boston camp were also at the ID2 camp. It was basically another vehicle, and that was basically based on just merit of competition, merit of talent, and you would get recommended from top players in the area. So this all happened around the time I was playing for Elk Grove. I played for Elk Grove for 3 years. I played for Elk Grove United for 3 years. And then ultimately, El Dorado was the top team in the area. Like we had a rivalry, Elk Grove versus El Dorado. We had a rivalry with them, but they had our number. We beat them a couple times, but we never beat them in the tournaments that mattered, which was State Cup, and I think it was Cal Cup at the time, but mostly State Cup. So around this time, there was like a congregation of like the top players in the Sacramento region that we joined El Dorado. So I guess it was our version of the decision where we built a super team. Essentially, we built a super team. So like the top players from Sac United, another top club in the area, the top players from Elk Grove, the top players from El Dorado, they were the top team. Even some of the top players from Davis. Davis was a little bit farther away, so they kind of kept separate, but basically we almost formed a super team. And the reason was that because Elk Grove, we could never get over that hump of reaching State Cup. El Dorado, they made State Cup a couple times. They can never get over the hump of winning regions. So we ended up joining El Dorado. Myself, a couple other players from Elk Grove, not all the players. One of my best friends to this day, Audie, who played at a high level up until college from Sac United. We all joined El Dorado. And that's when everything kind of went skyrocketed in terms of career. That's when, the youth national teams, I kind of was all over the place in terms of the timeline, but Elk Grove and then El Dorado, that's when we did Surf Cup, Dallas Cup. I think I have a picture to this day where like at Dallas Cup, I played against Bolton Wanderers and I was able to score against them. That wouldn't have happened if I was still on Elk Grove, because in terms of the level of, not the level of talent because we were a good team, but the level of exposure. I've talked about it on different videos in the past where you have to be where the talent is, you have to be where the scouts are at, and El Dorado allowed for me to continue to springboard my career. So I ended up playing for El Dorado. We were traveling all over the world, big tournaments, traveling all over the country. We were playing in big tournaments, and that helped increase my exposure to get on the national team, that first Boston camp. So taking it back to the Boston camp, That was the very first U14 national team camp. So each region 4 had their top players. Region 3, which was like Texas, Southwest, Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma, that region, Florida. We had Region 2, which was Midwest, like Illinois, Ohio, Indiana, that region. And then Region 1, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, those states. So each region brought in their best talent, and then basically we'd scrimmage, play, and then from that, they built the first cohort of the national team. And our very first national team camp was in Mexico. They brought 2 teams. They divided it evenly. I don't know how they divided it, but basically they split teams accordingly. And then from there, we had the U14 camp, and then from there we moved up to U15. So U15, we just kept moving up as we got older. So at this time, obviously I was getting older now. I had, this was from 5th grade to 8th grade. So now I'm a freshman at Jesuit, and now we're U15. So at this time, U15, I've already passed the ODP cycle. I mean, ODP is still going on, but I'm already on the national team now, so I don't really have to do like the district or the state. I'm more doing the regional stuff. So at this time, I'm in the U14 national team U15 national team. I'm playing for El Dorado, and I'm still doing like regional stuff when it offsets the national team stuff. And so now we're at the point where you start making the jump, because residency is around, and residency is the U17 national team program for the top 40 individuals. Because I was on an odd year cycle, the U17 World Cup is for even year cycles. So it was for the 90 age group. I would have to make it a year up. So it's for a 2-year program. Usually it's from your sophomore and junior year of high school, and you get invited. You go to IMG Academy. If you're familiar with IMG Academy, it's one of the top residency boarding school sporting programs in the world. Residency was the U17 national team's attachment to IMG. So we use IMG's facilities, we use IMG schools, but we weren't part of IMG. We were the residency program as part of the US U17 national team program. So U15 is basically like the year-long tryout to make residency. So at this point, I'm doing, playing with El Dorado. I did US Nike camp with a SoCal team as a guest player. I did U15 ESP program with the top Adidas talent, because it's another way to, promote young talent. I'm still playing in the big tournaments with El Dorado. Ultimately, I end up getting invited to residency. And that's when my career really changed, because once you get into residency, it's almost a guarantee that you're going to be able to go to college and play soccer. That at a minimum. So at a minimum, if you make it to residency, you're going to be able to play college. So I got invited to residency. I kind of skipped my high school because that's a touchy subject. I played high school soccer while this was going on. Obviously, high school soccer at this point in time in California, at least in NorCal, it was during the fall. So I competed with football. I actually was going to play football, but that was a whole nother thing. So I played soccer. Jesuit at the time, they were really strict about freshmen not playing for varsity, and the varsity team was actually pretty good, but I could have played varsity. So I played for the JV team, and we went undefeated, but it was always a situation where teams would try to target me, and we ended up playing our rival, Christian Brothers, and I ended up hyperextending my hip flexor. So I was out for a month. So I missed a couple U15 camps, and it actually almost hurt my chances of ultimately getting to residency. So I'm gonna forward, I was done playing high school soccer forever after that. So we're gonna get back to that later, but I had to include that. So yeah, got invited to residency. So I played at residency. So basically it's boarding school. You go to school, you play soccer. You play soccer, you go to school. Simple as that. And then you travel all over the world to compete and ultimately get ready to make it to the U17 World Cup. Like I said, I was a 91 playing with the 90s, so it was only a select few 91s, whereas there was 20 to 30 19 players born in 1990. There was only 12 to 15 1991s. And every 6 months, you had the potential of being cut because you got to find the top 40 to 50 players to ultimately compete for the U17 World Cup. So yeah, I completed my 2-year cycle. Ultimately, I didn't make the U17 World Cup. I was the last person cut. I guess I was an alternate, well, whatever that means, because I wasn't an alternate and I didn't go to the World Cup. So I was the last person cut. So U17, my cycle had ended and I had to finish my high school back in Sacramento. So because of the way the schedule lined up, I actually finished my residency cycle in a 1.5 years. And once we were done, it's a new cycle. The coach got fired. Usually you're able to stay and try to graduate early, but I went back to Sacramento, went back to Jesuit, and by this time now we get moved up to the U18s and the U20s. So this is a story for another day, but being the last person cut for the U17, it like triggered me. I saw red and I was like, this is never gonna happen to me again. So like my training, I went high octane. I went on another level. So once I got done, I was playing for the U18 team with our 91 age group at this time, but then also I was playing with the U20s, which at that time was for the 89 age group. So I was playing 2 years up for the U20s and for my own age group, the U18s. So I was doing that, and then I had gone back to Sacramento to finish my schooling. So I went to Jesuit. So I figured now that I'm done with residency, I'm gonna come back to Jesuit. And for context, growing up, I played multiple sports. I played soccer, I played basketball, I did football, volleyball. Obviously, soccer and basketball were the main sports, but then once I went to residency, soccer kind of chose itself. When I came back to Jesuit, it was under the impression that I was gonna like play basketball again and do soccer. But at this time, I was so committed to soccer that I was considering basketball, but I was never gonna play high school soccer again, especially how I got injured and the competition, and I was already doing so much I had moved back to my club team. At this point, El Dorado had moved to San Juan, because San Juan, in terms of the resources that they had, it was a lot better. So playing for San Juan, now we've built a super team now. We got the best kids from Davis, like my guy Adam Yan, who ended up going pro as well. We had other players, Audie, Karen Matlock, Chris Gashin, Jeff Rizzo, just a whole bunch of different players that, Christian Romero, just a whole bunch of different players that we formed together to build like the super team of San Juan, because we were playing Bay Area, SoCal, Texas. Like we were like a national club team based in Sacramento. And this will help me tremendously because I needed to continue to play at a high level after coming back from residency. At this time, my Coach Ruben at the time, had me playing men's leagues, like if you're familiar with Sacramento, a Southside Park. So I was 16, 17 years old, playing against grown men in adult leagues, like people trying to like hurt me. And like that helped me stay in competition so that when I went to go play on the national teams, I was at least game ready. So yeah, so that's it. I ended up leaving Jesuit because I was on scholarship, but I wasn't playing any sports, so it didn't make sense. I was missing too much school because of soccer, and I wasn't able to do any of the requirements in terms of Kairos and different things like that. So I ended up going to Rio my senior year, and they were very accommodating in terms of being able to do my studies, not only when I was in class, but also when I was away from school traveling for soccer. So yeah, my senior year, I ended up playing for the U20, making the qualifying roster for the U20 World Cup for the 89 cycle. I was playing for the U18 team. I was playing for San Juan. I was doing adult league, men's league, stuff like that at CCSL. And then ultimately I went to UCLA. I had the option of I was very fortunate and very grateful that I had option to go to a lot of schools, but I had been traveling, I had been away from home. So me and my parents decided that I was gonna stick to being in California. It was just an easy way to like stop getting a bunch of emails and budget requests I had a lot of options, but I cut it down to 4 schools: Santa Clara, Cal Berkeley, Stanford, and UCLA. Ultimately, I picked UCLA because it gave me the best of both worlds in terms of education and then soccer, but then also it was the farthest away from home. So it gave me a little bit of freedom as well. So I ended up going to UCLA and, playing my freshman year. We had a great year. We ended up going to the Elite Eight. I mentioned I made the World Cup cycle for the 89 squad for the qualification, but ultimately the 89 World Cup for the U20s, it was in Egypt, I believe. I didn't make that squad. 2 players from UCLA ended up making it, but I didn't make it, which was kind of gut-wrenching because I had been a 91, played 2 cycles up to make it with the 89s, and I made it to the World Cup qualifying team, but I didn't make it to the World Cup team. So that was another gut punch. But in hindsight, it wasn't even my age group, which is like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like, congratulations, but not congratulations. We're all competitors. But then after my freshman year, I ended up going pro, and then I ended up getting drafted in 2010 in the MLS Super Draft first round with the 6th pick to Philadelphia Union, which was an expansion team at the time. It's crazy thinking about it now. We're in 2026, so that was 16 years ago. Time flies. So for any athletes that think you can play forever, you can't. But yeah, that is basically the step-by-step process of going pro. Before I end, I want to talk about, I didn't know I was going to go pro after my freshman year at UCLA. It kind of just happened. I was playing at a high level. I was part of the U18, U20 teams. I was a top freshman, Pac-12 freshman of the year. At this point, now agents are starting to reach out. I also didn't mention, I had gone to trial in Portugal during my senior year of high school. So I went to SC Braga, I went to Sporting Lisbon, and I went to Porto. Porto was like the only team that I actually went on trial with. The other teams came to watch me because of different tournaments that had happened throughout the youth national team. So I had an opportunity to go pro to Portugal and also to Sweden. Ultimately chose to play in the MLS, just in terms of stability, being close to home, the money, got to keep it honest, the money. Everything's in hindsight. Some people say, why not take a chance to go to Europe? That just didn't happen for me at that time. I had other chances to go later on in my career, but ultimately I stayed in MLS and ultimately USL Championship. But in terms of how I chose an agent, I ended up going with Wasserman at the time. Aaron Maines was my agent, a great guy, one of the best guys in terms of the soccer world. So a bunch of agents had reached out to my parents. And ultimately, you do your interviews, they interview you, you interview them, basically where they project you based on things that they're hearing, based on things that they can do. And at the time, Wasserman was the best decision for me. So I ended up signing with Wasserman. And then, I got drafted in 2010. And then ultimately played 12 years professionally across 5 different teams, over 200 appearances, over 100 starts. Pretty good career. And when it's all said and done, obviously never made a World Cup. Their team made the Olympic squad. We didn't qualify for Olympics. We didn't qualify for U20 World Cup, even though I was part of these teams, so every career is going to have its ups and downs. I've had injuries, I've had trophies won, awards won, been cut, been injured. Every career is going to have its ups and downs, but that's the benefit of it. That's the joy of it. And so that's the step-by-step process of how I went from 5 years old all the way to pro. And let me know if you want to hear more stories of my soccer career from, the agents that I had to choose from, or the trials that I went on, or the ups and downs of my career. But I wanted to give you a step-by-step process of what it was like for me going pro, because my career and my trajectory was unique in the sense of I did residency, which is no longer around now. Now you have MLS Next Academies. I went to college for 1 year. Now people are not even going to college. So you can take bits and pieces from my story and apply it to your own journey, or you can take it as advice or lessons or hard truths, whatever you want to do, and then go from there. But yeah, don't hesitate to ask, comment, or follow for more. As we always end it, the vision is clear, the road is not. Okay, you go.